Hi there, this is Peter Rosenthal from corkandbottle.co.uk, back again with Fairtrade wines today. On the 28th of February 2011 we'll start Fairtrade Fortnight, and with that in mind I thought it was a good opportunity to start tasting some Fairtrade wines and let you know what is out there. Now there's actually a pretty decent selection in the supermarkets today. So I limited myself to the supermarket's own labels, because otherwise I'd be tasting far too much for my own good. So with that in mind, I went out to the various supermarkets and wasn't entirely surprised to find that the Co-op had a very decent selection of Fairtrade wines, all under their own label. Not all of them great, but they have got a pretty decent selection from Argentina and South Africa, although I have to say that I found their Argentinian wines to be better than the South African wines. The other supermarket that did do it for me was Sainsbury's, and they have some pretty decent offerings as well, both in their regular range and in the Taste the Difference range. My final choices came down to one of the cheapest wines in the range actually, which is an Argentinian Torrontés Chardonnay from 2010, the Famatina Valley, and this was Co-op's offering. So that is the first wine that gets my seal of approval, for the simple reason that I think it is very drinkable. It's $4.49, so it's also very cheap. And what I liked about this wine was the fact that it had a really fresh nose, it had a nice bit of acidity, and it was actually, for the money, I think was a really complete wine. You know, it didn't smell off in any way, it wasn't too confected, it wasn't too sweet. Nice middle of the road wine. The Torrontés gave it some like floral notes, whereas the Chardonnay gave it something a little bit sharper. And I think on the palate it worked really well as well. Nice fresh wine with good fruit intensity. This is not complex, but then it's not really meant to be, so it's nice easy drinking and it really won't disappoint. The second wine is the recently launched Taste the Difference Fairtrade Chenin Blanc from South Africa. It's coming from Wellington in South Africa, made by the Bosman family. I met Petrus Bosman a few months ago when I was at the South African tasting in Edinburgh, and I had a chat with him then, and was impressed by some of the wines anyway, and it's now good to see that those wines are starting to get into the supermarkets. This is a Taste the Difference, so you would expect it to be a bit more expensive, and normally this would retail about $7.99, but for Fairtrade Fortnight, Sainsbury's are doing it at $5.99 a bottle, and I think for $5.99 you cannot fault this wine. It is absolutely great value. It's one of the most expressive whites in the entire tasting. Lovely tropical fruit actually. There's some like pineapple in there, there's some guava in there, but there's also something a bit more citrusy in there, so to give it nice freshness. Now the red wines, again, there was a bit of a tough choice actually, because there was two Malbecs in the lineup that I both quite liked. One was the organic Malbec from the Co-op, which is Fairtrade, under their own Fairtrade label. $6.99 a bottle, and the Argentinian Malbec from Tesco, which was 50p cheaper, $6.49 a bottle. Now the Co-op one is 2009, Tesco's 2010. I found personally the Co-op one is a bit more complex. There's a bit more oak on there. It's a slightly more serious wine. It has lovely velvety tannins and great dark fruit intensity. The Tesco one is lighter, has a bit more juiciness on it, perhaps a little bit more jamminess as well actually, but For me, the reason I chose the Co-op wine as my ultimate favorite was that I think the timing is right for it just now. It's still nice and cold out there, so the Co-op one kind of gets my vote on that basis. And I would buy the Tesco wine probably to wait until the sun starts shining for my first barbecue. Both of them work equally well with a steak, but I just thought that the Co-op one had 50 pence more power in it. The final one that I chose was actually the red counterpart of the Chenin Blanc, which again from South Africa, made by the same producer, the Bosman family vineyard. Was the Cabernet Sauvignon from Wellington, also part of the Taste the Difference range. $7.49 a bottle on special offer for Fairtrade Fortnight, and normally $9.99, so it's a bit more expensive. Nice dark colour. Same with the fruit. You would expect that from Cabernet Sauvignon to be quite, you know, punchy, dark, very ripe, and it is. It's got that kind of blackberry, dark cherry nose, slightly plummy. There's some chocolate in there as well, really quite intense, and the tannins are a bit more punchy, I would say, than either of the Malbecs, which are very, very soft. This kind of like punches a little bit harder, but again, that makes it a very good food wine. And I think, you know, especially because we're still in the winter, you know, a nice warming stew or something like that to go with this wine would be the perfect accompaniment. So so those are my choices. Fairtrade Fortnight starting on the 28th of February, running for 2 weeks. It's time to get some wines in now, and hopefully you'll enjoy them. Cheers!